Welcome to episode 3 of the Reforged MPS podcast. I'm your host, John Papp, and here we have Derek.
Hello.
Hello. And we are sitting down today to chat yoga, strength, fitness, and whatever else comes up with the movement educator herself, Erica. Welcome, Erica.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
You betcha.
You sound like such a jerk.
So, introduce yourself to the folks. Who are you? What do you do?
Cool. Yeah, I am Erica. I teach yoga, but I also teach many different varieties of movement in general. I'm a full-time photographer too, so that's kind of this weird thing that I do on the side. And I don't know which camera I should be looking at.
We're totally fine. Just you can look at us.
Yeah,
we're just gonna add
just
it
like
on.
we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
That's the paranoia of my photography. But yeah, I've been teaching for about 10 years, and over the years it's definitely evolved. In the beginning it was very much power vinyasa yoga and, sweat and misalign your body. And now it's kind of more functional and having purpose behind our movements, adding variability to our movements, and sometimes it doesn't look like yoga at all. So that's why I'm kind of going by this whole movement educator thing nowadays.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I kind of want to preface this before we get too deep into this. Kind of why we wanted to have Erica on is, like, at least for me personally, I've worked with Erica as a client. I trained her. She is the client, not me, client. And personal training, fitness, strength side of things. And so when I started training Erica, I wanted to try out her classes. And the biggest thing that I noticed right away was this wasn't a traditional yoga class in the sense of it was only these certain flows and movements, and it was very traditional. It was I think the first one that I went to, there was blocks and straps and a blanket and all these different tools that she utilized, and I'd never really seen anything like it before.
Did you say straps?
Yes, straps.
Okay, fair.
Yoga straps.
Oh.
Yoga straps.
Just making sure. Okay.
So getting back on track here, and that being said, it was very interesting as a fitness professional myself, how she was utilizing these different pieces of equipment and modalities, and taking things from kind of the strength world and the mobility wad physical therapy realm, and kind of tying everything together, and the traditional yoga into what it should be, right? And we can get into that later, but
yeah.
So that's why we kind of wanted to have her on.
Yeah. My little spiel around John is I have suffered from injuries. When I lived in Chicago and I was teaching in Chicago, I got hit by a car while I was riding my bike. And then
Wait, you got hit by a car?
Yeah, and then a few months later I slid out behind a salt truck. So I was very apprehensive about moving my body, and when I moved back here, I kind of pulled back from all of my traditional movements in my yoga because they exploit flexibility and kind of taking your body to these extremes. And so I was so excited when I started training with John, because I could say, these are my injuries, this is what I'm working with, please don't hurt me and make me strong. And so that kind of reflects the shift that I've taken in my teaching, and moving away from the traditional standpoint, but also just being able to talk, John's probably go away, but every time we have a training session, I'm like, what do you think about this hinge in dorsiflexion? And he's just nerds out with me about it, and then I can apply it to yoga. And so that's why I was super excited that you guys were doing this, because a lot of what has influenced my movement patterns and my teaching habits now comes from, like he said, just general body awareness and strength training.
We like strength training.
Yeah, we do. Can you go back? Let's go. I want to go back to you getting hit by a car.
Oh yeah,
that was
thing.
I don't think I can just gloss over that part.
Yeah, I just got hit by a car.
Got hit by a car, and I was like, I should do some strength training. Slow that car down a little more next time.
Yeah. This is really funny.
Was it snowing? Was it
no,
set the scene for
it was October in Chicago.
Okay.
I was racing to get to a kickboxing class. And when I lived in Chicago, I had a car, but I didn't use it. I just biked everywhere. I was a cycling instructor previous to teaching yoga. So my form of like exercise, but also transportation, was always being on a bike. And I had to get to this kickboxing class. I was like, it was my friend teaching. She was subbing out of class. I had to get there. I was probably going, like, my average speed when there's not traffic around is close to like 20 miles per hour on a road bike.
Whoa.
Yeah, street cruising.
So I was hustling on my single speed. So just like as fast as I could. An old man in a fancy BMW SUV pulled out, rolled the stop sign. I saw him, skirted, hit the car, bike went that way, and then he drove away.
Oh,
Are you serious?
He drove away.
I was gonna say, if it was BMW and he's old, chances are he's got some dough.
I could have got so much money.
Man.
So much money. So my husband was actually already living in Detroit when this happened. So I was like, I need to phone a friend. I called my friend that lived closest to me. She picked me up. I think I like blacked out for a hard 2 hours. Didn't even, just was like not processing anything. And that like stupid 20-something me, oh, I have bad insurance. I really shouldn't go to the hospital. Like, it's going to cost a lot of money. I'm self-employed. So I didn't do anything about it.
Wow.
I had to teach an arm balance workshop 3 weeks later that was already on the schedule without bearing any weight on my right arm. So my left arm got really strong. I have pre-arthritis in my elbow and my neck is jacked up. But other than that, I was fine.
Yo.
But it happens. Like, when you commit to riding your bike in a major city, like, that's your form of transportation. My husband's been hit. He just went right onto somebody's front hood, cracked their windshield. Like, friends have been doored.
Yeah, I imagine that happens quite frequently.
It happens all
There's
the
many
time.
people.
Like getting doored? You mean where they like ride into the door?
Like, somebody
Like
opens
somebody
their
opens
door
the
and you're
door in
going
front of you.
15 miles per hour.
That's
Bam.
ooh.
It's just like, it happens.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Oh, I live in Chicago. I'm gonna get my car.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get doored. Okay, all right.
Well,
Once every 6 months.
And if you're
expect
lucky,
to,
the BMW stops.
yeah,
But
yeah.
in my
At
case,
least checks on you.
right.
Just takes off.
Yo, you good? See you. Okay.
Peace out.
Peace.
It was rough. Yeah, that
sucks.
sucked. But, you know, as bad as it was, injuries are always a blessing because you learn to like take care of yourself better.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah.
it happened.
So let's kind of talk about like your journey into yoga and teaching, because you said you were a cycling instructor first before teaching yoga. So what kind of made you transition to, oh, I want to go through a yoga teaching certification and like go through this process to become a yoga teacher?
Yeah. So my mom started taking me to yoga when I was 14. I was an athlete my entire life. My brother played collegiate hockey. My dad played collegiate football. I was trained to move nonstop all the time. And when I was in high school, I was playing sports and a little bit reckless. And so she thought that if on Saturday mornings she would force me to yoga and slow me down, I wouldn't go partying on Friday nights. So it was kind of a way for her
What are you talking
to-
about?
Run out all the
Yeah,
toxins.
exactly.
I love that term.
It was her way of ringing me in. I didn't appreciate it at all until I got to college. I too am a Michigan State alumni.
Go green.
Go green, go white. So when I got to college, I started taking yoga more seriously because I couldn't afford the gym membership at that really bougie gym. Just the regular gym.
I think it was Powerhouse at the time.
No, it was just like the campus gym.
Oh, the campus
They
gym.
charged you for the
Yeah.
campus gym?
Yeah.
What?
There
They
was a
charged
charge.
you to go to school and then they charge you for the gym membership.
Unless you went to I
That
Am
is
West or
bullshit.
East, which
Right.
those were free, but those were
Okay.
always jam-packed with
But
meat
there
balls.
was like a
Oh,
good
God.
gym that
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, they're super nice ones.
So once in a while, I would do drop-in
Ridiculous.
cycling there. Sometimes I would do yoga at the studios that were on Grand River. But my friend started teaching at this little hole-in-the-wall with carpet. It was kind of trashy, but it was, it was
A
$6
carpeted yoga
drop-in.
studio?
Yeah, it was
It's
weird.
like a carpeted bar.
Space heaters. It just felt wrong.
All
Yeah,
kinds
like-
of bad things have happened on this carpet.
Yeah. But you would go there, take class, and then you go to Peanut Barrel on Thursday nights because there was the Long Islands or
You can
whatever.
only have two, limit two.
Yeah, but they
That's
were
So
discounted
strong.
on Thursdays.
Yeah, they were like, I think they were like $4, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
It was cheap.
You could get shit faced.
And French fries and a burger.
$8, you could be just like, this is the best night ever. Well, it wouldn't be a good morning.
No, it was a terrible morning.
Yeah.
But so I stuck
Lots
to
of fun.
yoga, and then I moved to Chicago, and at that point, somebody was like, you should take these indoor cycling classes because you really like biking, and then the certification process was like 2 days. So I did it, and then I started teaching at a studio that also had yoga, and the manager came up to me probably every week and was like, your cycling classes are great, when are you going to start teaching yoga? And I had already been teaching yoga to friends and family. I lived with 7 guys my senior year of college, and
Party.
on Mondays, which was like our Sunday, I would teach them yoga.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, where did you guys live at? Can you give me like a...
I was on Grove,
Okay.
north of like all the frats and stuff.
Okay, did you guys have like a duplex or...
We had a 3-story home next to a church.
I think I know which one you're talking
Across
about.
from a school.
Yeah, I think I can picture it.
There was like a screened-in porch, but so many people would just like break through the screened-in porch.
Yeah.
There were raccoons in the ceilings. It was a party house with 7 guys and 2 girls. Me and my cousin.
I think I've definitely vomited on Grove Street while I was at
Oh,
Michigan State.
everybody does.
Even
Yeah.
One of my 3 MIPs was over there too.
Those are the saddest part about college.
So great.
So, what were we talking about? I did my indoor cycling training. I got hoaxed into doing a quick teacher training, so it didn't fit with the stupid standards that yoga has. That's like a whole nother podcast of who's allowed to and who's not allowed to teach. But with this 100-hour intensive, I was allowed to teach cycling and yoga at the studio. And then after about a year and a half, I realized I didn't really know shit about yoga. So I took another training and more trainings and more trainings. Then I got hurt, took more trainings, and now we're here.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome. So then so that was in Chicago,
Yes.
right? So when did you move back here and start kind of teaching in this area? In
So,
Detroit area, if you...
I've been back in Detroit for, my husband's gonna kill me, maybe it's been 4 years.
Okay.
And I started teaching at a studio in Rochester that also had a location in Troy. And I started teaching at a studio in Royal Oak, and they have locations in Detroit and Bloomfield. I'm no longer with either of those studios. I'm with a gym that's not open, and that's fine. And then I have a lot of private clients, and there's a space downtown that I use for teaching teachers specific facets of yoga.
Awesome. So when did you kind of get into like the teaching of the teachers kind of thing?
So my last 2 years in Chicago, I was leading teacher trainings. So for yoga, there's a 200-hour program and a 300-hour program. I was helping with the 200-hour program, and then when they'd graduate, they would have an opportunity for a mentorship. And I think my last round, there were like 7 mentors.
Okay.
Or mentees, and
Yeah.
I was the mentor. So that's when I really started teaching teachers how to teach. And then when I moved back here, what I was teaching was just very different than what comes out of Detroit Vinyasa. It's just a different form of movement and a different process of sequencing and level of education. And so one of the studios that I taught at, I was realizing as all these teacher trainings were being pumped out, they do them every quarter. And sometimes there's anywhere from 20 to 40 trainees in a session.
Yeah.
So over 200 people from one specific studio working towards this resignation, and you get out and you don't know shit.
Yeah.
You can regurgitate, you can be a robot, and if you're really good at being a robot, then good for you, but in reality, that just doesn't make you a good teacher at all. So I started having all these teachers in trainings coming up to me and being like, why did you do that way?
Yeah.
You shouldn't do chair pose that way. Chair pose is a squat. Don't tell me how to fucking squat. Like, I know how to squat. So really challenging people to think outside of the box and think of variability and think of the fact that every body is not the same. I cannot cue you two in the same way, in the same pose. So understanding too that bodies are unique, they're different, and people require different things. So I started picking up mentees here, and that's fun because you just kind of stir the pot, blow their mind, and then say, okay, go do that.
Yeah.
Stirring the pot is always fun.
Yes. I am the
Big
I am total anarchist, like, fuck you, I'm gonna challenge that, and then if you give me a science-based or a logical answer, I'll be like, okay, you win.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's not that.
Well, my friend said, well, they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Who is
read,
they?
when I did research, you mean when you read something.
When you Googled.
when you
Yes.
did- yeah, like a white paper or something.
Yeah.
The they is always my favorite. They're trying to do this. They're doing this. They say.
Which cult is this?
Who is this mysterious they that everyone always refers to?
Probably Dr. Oz.
Right.
That's probably what it is, Dr. Oz.
That's freaking
Oh, and
funny.
he's so rich.
Yes.
Can we even be mad?
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's laughing at all
How
of
much
us, right?
more rich does he need to be to
Can I have $5?
So,
Give me $5.
For people like me that know nothing about yoga, can you tell us about like the different styles of yoga, and
Yeah.
then maybe go in a little more depth about how you you're stirring the pot on like challenging, like this is how you do chair pose.
Yeah, which is a squat.
It's okay.
So there are many different lineages, but they all kind of trickle down from the same system. So back in the day, there was this man in India. He created a system that was predominantly for male boys. So think of like younger than John's and doing all these poses more so in a competitive structure. So you're competing for if you can take your legs behind your head and stand on your hands at the same time for XYZ amount of time. And then other people pulled that apart. Other people pulled that apart and created new lineages and said, okay, now we're gonna do static holds of these poses. Or I'm gonna get rid of these 300 poses and only keep these 26 poses, and we're gonna do it in heat. Then there's the vigorous, we're gonna string together 15 poses, load one front leg for those poses, and then do it again on the other side.
Okay.
There are restorative classes. I don't teach those. There are
Not hardcore enough for you.
not hardcore. There are yin classes where it's passive stretching the entire time.
Okay.
You hold something like a forward fold for a good 7 minutes.
Ugh,
I also don't teach those.
that sounds terrible.
I don't even know what a forward fold is.
Just like touch your
Just
toes.
just
nope.
full
Or
on
attempt
over. Do a hinge and stay there for 7 minutes. So there are all those different modalities, and they all have their own benefits for certain body types and certain types of people.
Okay.
But I kind of blend everything, and since at least moving here, I also teach my private clients with things like light dumbbells, a dowel rod, resistance bands, miniband loops, like adding load so that they can either create just general stability in their practice or general strength. Ultimately, all I'm trying to teach people is how to maintain stability. So be able to slip on ice and get back up and not break 5,000 bones.
Which is always good.
Yeah, especially Detroit.
Yeah.
Ice is real.
Or get hit by a car and bounce right back up.
Right.
Yeah, perfect.
And I work with a lot of people who have previous injuries. Somehow they just find me and kind of flock to me. So some of them are like, I had a shoulder replacement, or I had a hip replacement, I had this knee thing, and they suggested for me to do yoga, and then they get with me and we're doing resistance bands. And I'm like, how does that feel? They're like, I just paid some guy $90 for 15 minutes to do this in PT when I could have just been doing this with you the whole time. So a lot of my education also comes from getting injured and studying injuries and pain science and how that can benefit people. So when I'm working with a new client that comes from a place of injury, I'm talking to their doctors. I want to know what's happening with their surgeries. I preface, I am not a fucking doctor, but I can help you figure out movement patterns that are going to help you feel safe and hopefully provide you with enough strength and stability that you can eventually stand up and walk in every direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, and I think that is what we need more of, is this kind of integrative system of like you're working with the person's doctors, like physical therapists, like you're drawing from the kind of strength and conditioning world, you're drawing from all these areas to get a person to move better, just in general, right? And not get them really good at yoga or fill in the blank with whatever you want to say, whatever the modality is, but you're improving their movement and improving their overall health and fitness just in general.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's what a lot of times we miss in a lot of different fields. But yeah,
I mean, I definitely, like, Chelsea's always on me about doing yoga, and I know I should try it. But here's my concerns. Okay, so here's the concern. Number one, if we're going back to the gym that we collectively work at, I'm worried, one, because I know everybody there, that I'm in class and I just like let one slip.
That's like a human thing though.
But then they'll be like, that trainer, that's the one that
No,
farts in yoga
because
class.
at least there was music.
Does that happen when you squatted?
Oh, for sure, but I just yell rocket power.
See? So why does it matter? Why does it matter?
No, we don't care. People fart all the time in class.
I'm just so relaxed.
It's at one of my very first classes at this studio. This woman made noises down there while I was teaching and being reviewed. And my review had nothing to do with how I taught, but the fact that I did not address the noises that this woman's body was making when she was trying to stand up. And I was like, well, that's a win for me.
Yes.
But shit happens, and it's
Mission
funny.
accomplished.
Like, people fart,
Well,
you laugh about it.
I'm not worried about it in front of my teammates, but it's in front of clients or other people at the gym that know me, and they're like, oh my god, Derek, you should not be in the front row.
They're all gonna listen to this and be like, so you have a farting in public problem?
I think you're overthinking this.
I might be.
But what would you recommend for someone like Derek who has never done this? Like, he's like obviously well versed in the other side of like the fitness world, but like who's never kind of ventured into that. Like, where do you start?
So with people that lift any sort of weight, I start with basic joint mobility. So different than flexibility, you're not just like passively leaning into your tissues and staying there. More controlled articular rotations are different than cars that you would see in FRC, but through all major areas of the body, and just kind of assessing how you move through things as simple as stepping a foot forward and then coming back to standing on both feet, lifting a leg up, externally rotating it, doing all these different things through different joint positions and how your body can kind of regulate and come back through middle. And then depending on what you do a lot of, so if you're dominant, if you really like squatting, it's likely that you need a little bit more awareness to stretch areas like your glutes and your calf muscles. So
I don't have calves.
It's okay. They're there. But like if your whole posterior chain is tight, then how can we make this more beneficial for you? So stretching them.
Gotcha.
And then now apply that to your squats.
Okay.
I would always highly suggest, like when John takes class, hey, do the yoga and then go lift heavy. Because now your body has gone through all of these different ranges of motion. It's kind of endured your own body weight's load. Now see what you can do from there.
Plus, I imagine do you get kind of sweaty when you do yoga?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so you're like warmed up and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, you're moving.
Yeah, you schwitz.
Yeah, 100%.
What is it? Schwitz?
Schwitz.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Just have a
Okay.
schwitz.
You have a schwitz.
But everybody's different, so it depends.
Okay.
I always say it depends. When I'm doing basic assessments at the beginning, I want to know all the things, but also I don't want to know all the things.
I think that's key is admitting it depends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being able to say that because I think a lot of people they're like, well, if I don't know it, they're not going to work with me.
Right.
So you just come up with something on the spot with two big words so they just believe you.
Right. And I think it's just like, I think that comes from like an actual understanding that you need to do better and educate yourself more, and you're like lacking in areas, but so you're like insecure about it.
Yeah.
Right. Versus like the person who says, you know, it depends, or I don't know, or whatever, it's like you're more secure about it because you know you've spent the time educating yourself on these other things that I do have value to add, and they're not gonna not work with me just because I didn't answer this one question in the super science-y, you know, big words way.
And that's why I have John, because I'm like, oh, this lady has this rotator cuff thing. Is that like too much? I literally I'll send John videos. What is this called in
like, well, the
strength
super
training?
spinatus looks like it's not
Yeah,
firing
yeah.
properly. And Terry's minor would probably use a little work in this position.
That's totally our
I
conversation.
recommend a
I go
supinated
Google
grip.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's one thing. So we had some questions too that we posted on social media. All of us did, and of some questions that people had asked and wanted to ask and talk about, and you kind of touched on one of those things. I think one of the questions was, what is the difference between like flexibility and mobility? Right? You said it, but I want to make a point of this because it's something that a lot of people don't understand, and they hear this thing like thrown around mobility like a lot. It's like become this really popular word like in the last like, you know, couple years. Yeah, ever since Kelly Starrett and Supple Leopard,
2012,
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Ramwad and all those kind of things. Like everybody's like mobility, 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 but a lot of people actually don't really know what it means.
Yeah.
So like, what's your definition there?
So we'll start with flexibility.
Yeah.
Flexibility is your tissue's capacity to yield into something.
Yeah.
So if it's yoga, my ability to passively yield into and elongate the muscles in this one-legged forward fold, whatever. I consider mobility your ability to control joint positions through many different ranges of motion.
Oh, I think she nailed
I
that.
think she did.
If we had an applause track, we would definitely run it right now.
Would you? What if
That
I
was
said
really
it
good.
all wrong? Would you have been like,
Like,
she's
well,
cut?
We're gonna edit that out.
Next question.
No, we would.
Yeah, so I recently taught yoga teachers a course on implementing load and force into their teachings, and so we talked a lot about what is the difference between passively stretching a muscle and making joints stronger, connective tissue stronger, not just foam rolling over and over and over again and hoping that something's going to change. And so oftentimes when I am doing something like stretch your big toe, sorry this is on video, stretch your big toe, it's not just this elongating of the back of the muscle, it's can you contract the front of the leg as you stretch the back of the leg? Can we get everything involved in this rather than just exploiting two attachment sites?
Okay.
Exactly. I love it. And
That's
like
great.
adding to that, like that is what's going to translate to the real world.
Yes.
Like it's great to like awesome, you are really flexible, cool, but can you do anything with that? Can you control that? You know, or are you actually putting yourself in a worse off position and ending up into these really bad like positions biomechanically because you're really flexible? Or can you control that range of motion, that full range of motion? And like it doesn't have to be anything insane. Like I think that's like, I think you'll agree with this, but like in the yoga world, there's like more. I need to be more flexible. I need to be able to do this crazy back bend, reaching over, under, crazy hold thing. And it's like, but what are you doing? You're just getting really good at that specific thing.
Right.
But is that translating to anything? Like, is that actually going to help you, you know, in everyday life, you know, moving your kids around, carrying your kids, picking up grocery bags, crawling.
Look, I'm a pretzel.
It's gonna make you really good at being a pretzel. That's it. Congrats, you're a pretzel.
It's really challenging, especially this day and age, to be on social media. I know you guys feel the same sentiment because there are people who literally have collagen that allows them to be hypermobile and put their leg behind their head.
Yeah.
And they post their progression to getting there over, let's say, a year. And then somebody like me, who doesn't have the same collagen, bone structure, elasticity, connective tissues, injuries, whatever, tries to do the same thing, you're gonna fuck yourself up. And I've had so many yogis, not so much recently because I kind of, you know, you weed out the ones by calling them out in class. Just kidding, I don't do that, but I kind of do that. But that would injure themselves trying to do dumb shit in other classes, and they're like, well, I think that something is going on in my hamstring. I'm like, yeah, you probably have a little tear there.
Yeah.
Well, what do I do? Stop putting your leg behind your head.
Stop
First
doing
of all,
that. Is step
there
one.
is no benefit, not even in the bedroom. So like, just stop doing it. And you know, it's so sad because I think in the beginning, like with anything, you think that that's gonna make you a better, like more spiritual and a better human being if you can put your leg behind your head. But nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I never really like gave a girl extra points when I was going through the dating field for being able to
You
put her
are
behind her head.
exceptionally flexible.
Yeah.
You're moving on to
You're
date
moving on.
2.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But I think just that kind of like Instagram influencer, like I need to put this thing out that's the craziest, so I need to do this crazy thing. Like it's the same with like the strength stuff or the physique stuff. Like it's the same exact thing. Like it's how can I show off more to get attention, right? Because that's what it's about, right? It's about getting attention for yourself for whatever reasons you have, right? And that's up for debate. But you know, like whatever that reason is, you have to do this crazy thing, and then it's like humans, we always want to make better and better, right? But it's like the same thing with this. Like then the next person's like, ooh, but I can do this. Like, but I can do this. And then it's like, why are we doing this
Why?
to begin with? What is the point of this?
It's all ego, and that's one of
Exactly.
the first things you learn in yoga, yet every yogi is the most egotistical person that I've ever met. It's just a fact of life, because that's just how that goes.
Can you? Okay, I want to go back to the Instagram thing,
Go ahead.
but first I want to. I was dying to ask this question. What are the male yogis like in general? Can you stereotype them a little bit, or?
So I would say there are 2 types of male yogis.
Okay, the ones with man buns, the ones without.
But no, the ones who exploit their sex and their power, and then the ones that don't give a shit and are actually cool human beings.
And actually just doing it for the right reason.
Yeah, my mentor, he'll probably listen to this, but his name is Rocky, and he has, you know, thousands of Instagram followers, and we have a really good relationship outside of him being my teacher. And that kind of started before I was even his student. He would send me something and say, is this too like trashy to post? Just like from a female perspective. He's gay, so he doesn't care, but he just wants to know. And I was like, no, like just show off your shit. Who cares? Everybody else in the yoga industry is doing it. All of the Instagram famous yogis are the men that can take their shirt off, have their like 12,000 pack, and do handstands for days.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that I literally unfollow so fast. And then there's the other ones that are actually humble and practicing what they preach, and they're just good humans, but they're so few and far between.
And I think that goes in the health and fitness realm. That is much broader, not just with the yoga people, but the trainers
100%.
and the online coaches and
Everything.
stuff. Is they're only showing you their highlight reel.
Yeah.
And how amazing they are, and then everybody thinks they're going to be like that. But like you just talked about before, you know, the collagen difference, the structural difference, like how long your bones are.
Yeah.
It make a huge factor. So just because you're hiring a coach that can deadlift 900 pounds doesn't mean you're going to deadlift 900 pounds. And if you hire a coach that can do, I don't know any yoga poses, but what's a tough yoga pose?
Let's say handstand.
Okay, definitely can't do that. So you see this guy or gal that can do a handstand for like 10 minutes and like read a book while they do it or whatever.
Yeah.
You're gonna think, you know, and for whatever reason, people think, I don't know why. If they hire this person, that's what I'm going to have.
Yeah.
And I think if their shoulders are healthy, most people can probably eventually get to a handstand.
Totally, you can progress.
If you're not heavy either, right? I mean, that probably has a factor. Or do you know some?
I know able bodies that can do that. Yeah.
Okay. They just have to be stronger if you weigh more.
Yeah, and you have to have that range of motion with the arm in the overhead plane, and then you have to be able to bear at least your body's weight. So there are ways to progress that and eventually get there. There are ways to do it with support of a wall or another person or whatever. So yeah, but also for some people, like gymnasts, your body can just get locked into a handstand and you can be there for 10 days.
Right.
That's just
Right.
Because you spent years and years and
right,
years
training
honing
your
this.
shoulders.
But so you go through the same thing John and I go through
Yeah.
when we're on, because like, you know, and I'm trying to do less time on social media now,
Mm-hmm.
just because I get like fired up.
Do you limit yourself through your Apple phone? Your iPhone?
Oh no, I didn't. I'm.
You need to.
I don't know how to do that.
Chelsea can help you. You need to limit.
Chelsea's worse than I am.
Limit to an hour though. Just limit to an hour because then you cannot even fall into the deep holes.
Unless you just say ignore.
Don't say ignore. You have to be honest.
That's what I'm like. Well, I gotta. Like, I have to do this one thing. Like, I have to message this person back. Like, this is for like the training business, whatever.
Email.
And then like the next thing I know, like it's I'm on it all day.
I
Right?
know.
Just checking it.
I get so. I shouldn't let it. I'm getting better about it because I'm doing it less. But like I just get so pissed because I see these people call themselves. For me, a nutritionist thing is it just grinds me because there's only a few ways to become a certified nutritionist. Me being one, I went through it was a year-long course, but it did take me 18 months.
Hey, it's fine. Extra education.
So that's the part that's frustrating. Then you see these PTs that are obviously terrible, but they look really good with their shirt on.
Yeah.
Or off.
Yeah.
Probably on
And
as
on
well.
too.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
You look good with it off.
filling it out there, fella. Yeah. So it just becomes maddening to me that people go to those guys in droves, and then
Yeah. But then are those people going to stay with them? No matter if they're a yoga teacher, if they're a nutritionist, a trainer, a sport coach, performance coach, like anyone can post flashy shit and put in their bio like all this cool stuff and like talk themselves up. Cool, you're a great marketer, but can you back it up?
Right.
True.
Can you actually get them the results that they want or need, and can you keep them injury free? I mean, that's like the biggest thing. Like everyone always gets hurt when they work with teachers and trainers. Like that's the number one rule. Like do no harm.
Yeah.
But yet so many people, almost everyone has a story. Oh, I worked with this trainer and hurt my back. I hurt my shoulder in this class. I did this, and it's like that's the number one rule, and you're breaking the number one rule.
Yeah.
Like. So those people, they might get the flashy things and they might get the little sales at first, but is that long term? Is it sustainable?
I know a lot of yoga teachers too who look really great on their resume,
Mm-hmm.
and then you take their class, and public class is challenging. It's
Yeah.
no different than any group fitness class. If you're an educated teacher, you're teaching to the lowest level of studentship, the highest level of studentship, and the middle. So everybody feels involved. You should never make those who can't do jack shit feel left out. And so there are teachers who look really great on paper, and then you take their class and they're teaching handstand, which is one of the top, let's say 5 most advanced postures in yoga, and they're teaching that in the first 10 minutes of class.
Yeah.
So it's
just to be like I'm better than you. Look at me.
yeah, and it's kind of funny because especially as a teacher, when I first moved here and I was taking other teachers' classes, I wouldn't tell them I was a yoga teacher, and I'd just see like what would happen.
That's always interesting. I like doing that.
Yeah.
With training stuff.
Kind of
too,
like be sneaky about
Yeah.
it. And then the next class, I'd show up, they'd find out I was a teacher through Instagram or whatever, and they would throw down for the sake of showing me up.
100%.
And I'm in the back like chilling. Like I'm just gonna stretch back here. I don't even want to be here anymore. But the fact that you approached your class to impress another teacher and you didn't think about the 30 other people in class is just, it's so unfortunate, but it happens all the time.
That's so common. I mean, so common. Like in our realm, like you go to a class or small group thing, whatever it happens to be. Obviously not like personal training, a little different, but and then they're like, give you the hardest workout or like really try to like push and like sometimes okay fine, but then it's like why are you changing it for everyone else? Like kind of that thing like you should be teaching to like the lowest level and the highest level and like the medium. Like everyone should feel something there, not just like ignoring all these other people just because there's this like more advanced person and you're trying to impress them.
Yeah.
Right.
People don't get that though,
Yeah.
because they just,
Ego.
it comes back to
Ego.
ego. Yeah.
Ego is the enemy.
Ego is the enemy. It's gonna shoot you in the foot. You're gonna look like the asshole who hurt all your students and then wonder why nobody comes back.
Boom.
Which too has happened.
Well, the ego thing is always interesting to me because it took me a long time to get rid of mine. Like a lot longer than most people to get rid of mine, which is why I'm all banged up. But John, you have never really. Have you ever had much of an ego?
John's humble.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, John's pretty humble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but everyone has it, especially when you first start out. Like I always talk about, like the kind of the spectrum. When you first start out, you think you know everything. You think you can fix everyone, get everyone the best results possible. You're better than every other trainer or teacher around, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know shit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's this like kind of continuum of, and then you get to a point where you're more confident again and like, okay, I actually do have some value to offer here. But I think like there's always that point where it's like, I am worthless at this.
Yeah.
Like I know nothing, right? But yeah, so
Well,
I think
and
everybody has it.
a lot of it starts from, with any movement modality, you start from a place of imitation,
Yeah.
right? You find your mentors or your people on Instagram and you are just trying to regurgitate as much
Yes.
information that you've memorized as
Yeah.
possible. And then you start to educate yourself about things, realize what doesn't work, sift out all of the weeds and all the shit, and then you can apply that.
Yeah.
And I think that the people who get to that application through process of failure are way better educators than the little robots.
I agree with that because I think like you're saying, like you get like you go hard and with whatever the specific topic is, like whatever the modality, whatever the person you're learning from is, and like you try to absorb everything, and like especially when you first start out, like you're saying, like you regurgitate it out, like you're trying to be like a mini them essentially, right?
So embarrassing.
And then you realize that okay, maybe that's not the best strategy. And like then you realize over time, okay, this works really well. I can take this I don't necessarily agree with, or I don't think it's what they say it necessarily is. So you can kind of keep that the good things and move on, right?
Yeah.
I think that's all the good coaches, teachers, anything, educators, and not even the health and wellness field, but just educators in general. Like they pull from all areas, right? And they get the good things and make this hybrid thing.
Which is kind of what you're doing, right? You are doing your own. You're stirring the pot.
I'm doing my own. I got my own shtick.
That's cool. I didn't know that you did that.
Yeah.
Of course I don't know shit about yoga. I'll be honest
fine.
on that. But the fact that you are mixing and matching, right? You're kind of pulling from what works, which is kind of what John does in jiu-jitsu, or that's what the jiu-jitsu stuff is too, right? And I mean, any kind of training. Really,
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
But that's really cool. So you kind of build, like if you have a private client, you're building the movements around the client. You're not just throwing them through like, oh, we're gonna do
Right.
vinyasa. Or
Right. Yeah. No.
something
My that was correct. Vinyasa
Just
is a
said,
thing.
oh, I nailed it. Learning. Woo!
So with private clients, it looks different for every person. The whole it depends thing. One of my clients that I see bi-weekly, she rides her bike a lot, she does yoga a lot, she's quad dominant. She has her whole backside is not that strong. So think glutes, hamstrings are overstretched, calves are pretty tight from cycling. So a lot of the work that we do is observing how you can load her ankles, just like strengthening that whole region, strengthening her butt, her ass, and then strengthening her core. Because with cycling, posture goes out the door within the first 10 pedal strokes.
It was like this, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of this.
We're
just
hunching right now.
hunching
You can't see us.
down,
You're listening to us. We're hunching.
we're hunching.
We're trying
No
to
different than text messaging. It's text message pose, but on a bike. So, and then thoracic spine is just like in this protective position. So then we do a lot of shoulder opening. So with her, it looks like resistance bands, light weights, doing work with the wall, learning how to load the chest with the wall, and then with the weights, and then with the bands, and then rinse, wash, repeat.
Gotcha.
And then with other people, it'll look like, I want to work towards this big back bend pose. Well, look at the components of the back bend. Where are you tight? Hip flexors and pecs. Open those. build a little bit of strength so you have some stability as you push yourself up, and then kind of work repetition. So it wouldn't look like a public class where we're just flowing and I call out a pose and you do it.
Okay.
It's very, I ask beforehand what they want to work on. No different than what John does when we train. I create a plan. Sometimes the plan goes out the window because they did X, Y, and Z or squatted the day before and they feel like garbage.
Fantastic when they do that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Right?
Like I had this great program, and that's like
2 hours dialing it up. This is exactly what you want. They come in there like, yeah, we gotta fucking throw that out the window.
I did that to John today though.
Bang,
I
chest
totally,
up.
I was like, you want to know what's wrong with my back today? Oh yeah, that'd be helpful. So yeah, everybody's a little bit different. Some people, when I first came back here, just wanted to flow, and I was like, that's cool, but no, I don't. That's not the kind of client I want. You can get that in a public class. And so,
Which I think is cool. I think a lot of, I know when I first started, I was training, couldn't say no.
yeah.
Terrified to say no. But now that I've been doing this a while, it's like more beneficial for them and me to say no, because if I dread the hour that I'm going to spend with them, or like, you know, then
Vice versa.
it's exactly
Yeah.
like they're just coming in and they're like I don't want to see your face. You should go with somebody else. I
hate you.
I don't like you either.
Yeah. And I'm happy to pass people on, you know. I have my list of teachers who can do that with private clients, and if that's their prerogative, then I will shift to them that way with no problem.
Yeah.
And that's how I got a lot of clients in Chicago, people sending them my way because they knew that I was doing specific things. And in Chicago, one of the studios that I taught at was predominantly male, so I had a lot of male students and learned how to teach to that body type. Then I also taught at a cycling shop. They sold bikes, so learning those patterns and how to teach to those people, and then just knowing my brother and his athleticism, how to teach to those people. So putting yourself in front of many different body types to learn different ways to move has been so beneficial.
I think that's big too, like with the, like you were saying, like the cyclists, like, you know, everyone's different, but if like you cycle, there's probably some things that are going to be consistent through every person.
Yeah.
Like if you're like a hardcore yogi, there's probably some things that are be consistent. And I actually don't know where I'm going with this. I just completely lost my train of thought.
I'll take it over.
Go
I'll
ahead.
pick it up from your train of
There's
thought. So, how has weight training like helped you? Like, when did you start weight training and encompassing that in your personal training? Like when you were, you know, how long have you been doing it for?
So
And
when
what have you noticed?
when I was in high school, we had to weight train for basketball, volleyball, just basketball and volleyball. So
Okay.
I was bench pressing, squatting, deadlifting when I was like 14 and everything was still growing. So it was a very weird phenomenon for me.
Can't control my body, let alone other weights.
Exactly. And then when I went to college, I couldn't afford that gym. What was that stupid gym? I couldn't afford the stupid gym at Michigan State.
I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure it's not there anymore.
Yeah, so I stopped lifting, but I would still go to group fitness classes, and
Okay.
we had dumbbells, and the boys had the dumbbells that you can increase the weight now that I wish I had all of COVID. And so
Diamonds.
kind of stopped. Then I got to Chicago, and there it's like a giant playground. They have so many gyms, so much shit, so many specialty classes, and I started weightlifting again, but I was also more just focusing on cycling and yoga. So I tried to dabble, but then I kind of felt conflicted, like weight training is affecting how I commute every day, and if I'm riding 16 miles a day, I can't really be lifting too heavy because then I have to get to work and then I have to go teach yoga.
And like teaching cycling too, like you're
And teaching cycling.
you're actually doing the class.
On
Like,
Sundays I would teach a triple. I would teach
Oh.
cycling, then yoga, then cycling. And on Saturdays I would shoot weddings for no less than 13 hours in the day.
gotcha.
So my schedule was just
Yeah.
ass
So there
backwards.
is this point where like, all right.
Yeah. And then when I moved back here, I joined a gym that was close to my mother, and I started lifting again. But I was always kind of scared to do it because of my previous injuries, and I could understand the mechanics, But with yoga, you exploit so much of like the lumbar and thoracic spine that I knew I wasn't squatting or deadlifting right anymore. Like I just completely lost it. So I was happy when we got to the gym to start doing that again. And Jim Jalove was like, "You should train with John.
Shut
Go
up.
train with John." And then
He's so fantastic.
Dave knew me. We knew of each other from college, or we had mutual friends, and he also suggested to work with John because I knew I didn't want to work with a girl. No shade to any female trainers, but I'm a tomboy. I've always surrounded myself by men, and I just feel more comfortable doing that than I have some girlfriends. I just don't like them.
No,
You're good.
I think I have, almost all my female clientele, they wanted a male trainer.
Yeah.
They just,
It's
and
preference.
some, one in particular was like, I just wanted a cute guy to work out with. And I was like, all right, well, I'm glad I fit that bill.
I
That's
can be
really
your friend.
nice. That's really nice.
It's the beard.
Giraffe and glasses, but I'll take it. That's really cool.
Stop.
I like it. But so I never think there's any shame in that, and I think I would. It's for me because my knowledge base with weight training or whatever, it wouldn't matter to me as long as I would want the trainer that knows the most. So I'd probably,
Go, John.
probably.
Oh, jeez.
He's smart
So
and humble. Clearly.
God, he can't. Yeah, he can't
can't
take a
even get
compliment. I know,
compliments.
it's
it's
like-
probably a problem.
I don't know if you can
Like,
see it on the video, but
No.
John gets red whenever
He's
we
like, "Don't
compliment
It
him.
talk
makes me
about me."
uncomfortable. Like,
Oh my God! Why are people being nice to me? Tell me I'm awful.
stop. Like, talk about someone else.
So when you started working with John, what did you notice? Like any difference in the yoga?
Yeah, so there's this
Picking up cars to change the tires.
there's this crazy thing that yogis think that if they build strength, they'll lessen their capacity to be flexible and mobile. To some degree, you do lose flexibility, you gain mobility. So by strengthening those joints,
Knowledge bomb.
you have the opportunity to then take your yoga to new levels. So as soon as I started working with him, it was really funny because I took a senior teacher's class and I love him dearly. And he was like, "Oh, I know you lifted yesterday," because I posted about it on Instagram. "You probably shouldn't do this pose." And I was like, "Fuck you." It's essentially you go from a forearm plank to standing on your forearms, like a handstand, but on your forearms. And then I put my feet on my head. And he was like, "Holy shit." I go, "Don't ever talk down to me strength training again."
What kind of what is that pose called?
Rishikasana.
I can picture it. I think I've seen it, but
I'll show you a
Yeah.
picture.
maybe
But in yogis' minds, by building strength, you lose everything else, and it's just not the case. And it's been kind of my mission as of the last few years to teach people that strength is not a bad thing. It's gonna make your yoga more sustainable. It's gonna make your daily life more sustainable, and that's more important than your yoga, though people don't really understand that. So it was kind of just so nice to be like, "Oh, I deadlifted yesterday, and then I used my
Look what I'm
hamstrings,
doing."
Check this
and I put
out.
my feet on my head."
That's wild.
Yeah.
I think that that kind of mindset, I've in the martial arts world. So it's very similar. Like, oh, you shouldn't weight train, you shouldn't strength train because you're gonna get slow. You're gonna get you're gonna lose the flexibility for these different things that you're doing in whatever martial art, whether it's a striking or a grappling.
Grappling.
And
Sorry.
and it's the same thing. Like, you shouldn't ever do this because it's going to take away from this. But in reality, if you do it correctly and intelligently, it's going to enhance those things. Yeah, if you're a hulked out pro bodybuilder,
That's wild.
that's a pretty crazy pose.
Just
Literally
kicking
feet
it.
on the head.
Just kicking
For
it.
those of you.
Dirty Converse touching my head.
Well, at least they're your dirty.
They're my
Converse.
Dirty Converse.
But
That's
yeah, when in
wild.
reality, those things can enhance. Like, strength training, when done correctly, enhances everything.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a runner, a distance runner, whether you're a cyclist, whether you're a yogi, whether you're a martial artist, whether you're fill in the blank. Intelligent strength training enhances it.
And bicep
Exclamation.
curls make you look good.
That's
No,
right.
I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. They do though, obviously.
I did bicep curls today.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen you do bicep
I did
curls.
them too.
Did you?
She did them too. Yeah.
Just smashing our biceps out here,
Biceps?
bro.
Biceps.
You didn't do
Triceps.
bicep curls today?
Actually, I did do biceps.
Did you
see, we
pick
all
up a
did
glass
bicep
of water
curls
and drink
today.
water? Bicep curl.
There you go. 12 ounce curl.
Descending.
So
So
you want to move into the questions?
Yeah.
Do you have them pulled up? Because my thing.
I texted you.
I know it's over on the.
I got some questions for her, but none of them are appropriate from what my I don't know what you call them, my followers had asked.
What?
Why?
They're just dirty birds.
Oh. Stupid. Stupid people.
Dirty birds.
Little pervs. No.
Shame on you guys.
Okay, so this was a question from my friend Mai. She works at a physical therapist's office. She is a yoga instructor as well. How can we change the narrative of yoga can fix everything when the truth is that diversifying movement patterns and strengthening is just as important as mobility? And strength can create mobility. So we kind of just answered this question.
kind of answered it.
Nailed it. Wow. I haven't heard
Yoga
it.
does not fix everything. It does not make you spiritually awakened. It does not make you a better human being. It does not make you really anything, but it is an outlet. So it can't fix everything, but it can be a nice outlet for emotional and intellectual whatever release.
Just sit like a downward dog and have a good cry.
Yeah, you know, some child's pose, some tears. So, yeah, diversifying movement patterns are huge. And I know that strength training is a newer thing in relation to yoga. Yoga goes back way, way back. That's a whole nother thing. But a lot of those movements came from taking something like a lateral lunge and then doing something a little bit different with your arms. You know, so how can we perfect that movement or not perfect it and kind of flip the script, do it on our back or do it at the wall or do it standing on a chair?
Said lateral lunge, I'm sweating a little bit.
Just getting nervous over here.
He's like, do I have to do that?
Can I have one of the TRX?
Demonstrate.
God. No, but the movement variety thing to go to, because I know there's a question for you, but to jump into that, that's one thing that I've always lacked is movement variety. I was a total barbell guy.
Yeah.
I still am to the core, but having worked where we worked and seeing the way John and some of the other trainers work with their clients, I was like, wow, I have been pretty much a one-trick pony for the majority of my career. And so that movement variety really is huge because, I mean, I know I joke about moving laterally, but I really don't move laterally well.
I feel like you joked about this in the last podcast.
He says a lot.
I say a lot.
Oh,
I just
okay.
own it. Because
Yeah.
eventually, because like once my, and
He says
me and
a
you
lot,
messaged
too.
a little bit too about my
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
what's currently going on with that. But once that's better, I really want to encompass more movements. Like I see John do plyometric stuff. I would like to do that. I would like to, dedicate a phase to that kind of style training, maybe get back into volleyball, but my back just can't handle
Yeah.
compression right now.
Yeah.
Like for the most part. So, and that comes from me being a one-trick pony, not only what I was as a trainer, but also what I was as a person since the time I started lifting weights when I was 16 was just weights.
Yeah.
More on the bars, better, and for a long time form kind of went out the window. But I'm sure that the form thing kind of goes with yoga too. You can do poses wrong, right?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny because one of the studios that I taught at, they considered themselves alignment-based yoga. So alignment was like the key word there, and it didn't just mean physically, it meant like intellectually aligned and all of that. But all yoga should be well aligned, in my opinion. On the flip of that, not all people will do the pose in the same way, depending on, variability of dorsiflexion, knee flexion, hip extension, all those different factors. So you can be misaligned, but for some people, that misalignment is actually just a variable for them. It's a customization for them. I don't really love to say modification in yoga because it makes them think like they can't do it,
Oh,
but it's a customization.
gotcha. Okay.
So you can do things wrong, but also knee over the ankle, you do that in squat. In yoga, we teach that that's wrong. when you walk, when you bike, when you squat down to pick something up, your knee passes your ankle. So
Just want to emphasize that it is okay for the knee to pass the ankle
Yes.
for everyone listening.
And it's also okay for the knee to go over the toes if you have
Yes.
some people
Yeah.
have
Yeah, toes, ankles, same
Toes,
same
yeah,
concept.
yeah.
a lot of people have, well, not a lot of people, but I've seen some people that have that mobility. I'm not one of them, but
maybe one day.
I am envious of those people that have that bone structure or the patience to sit in that.
Don't strengthen your calves then. And then you can keep working.
I don't
on
want to
those.
get them stronger. I just want to keep them
It's
bigger.
200 calf raises a day.
It's gonna limit your dorsiflexion maybe, so just don't do it.
But having sexy calves in my Chuck Taylors, that's what it's all about.
People
Let's
love
put it
calves.
down.
Guys love
Why
calves.
is that?
I don't know.
I never understood it. Like, I personally could care less. Like, I just never
Well,
understood
okay,
it.
as a female, I know we know you're married, but
Yeah.
what feature did you notice on dudes? What were you like? Whoa, look at those calves, or were you like,
I don't
man,
know.
look at his hairline?
I don't notice those things.
You don't.
Which is
You just see their aura, or
yeah, I just
no? I'm totally
I just
kidding.
feel
I'm
their
kidding.
energy and I'm like, this is right.
Oh, there you go. Your vibe
Mine
is
is-
what I'm looking
Yeah,
for.
mine is not so much aesthetic. Now, my cousin, she's my best friend. If you are wearing the wrong shoes, you're out. Like,
Shoes, really.
you see them at a bar, they're wearing the wrong shoes, you can't. Like,
What if they're
she hates New Balances. She's a Nike girl to the core. So if
Just
somebody's wearing New Balances,
Wow.
the
it's-
white New Balances?
Even
Yeah,
like
all of
cool
them.
ones?
I'm
all
only
of
like
them.
2 years away from only
The
wearing
old man
those
New Balances?
specifically. Those.
Yeah.
I found a pair for a
They
buck
should
ten.
rock it. Like,
these orthopedics feel great on my feet.
all the old guys wear them for a reason. Like, I mean, I'm sure they're not like
They're super
crappy
comfy.
shoes. Right?
Oh
They gotta
yeah,
be comfortable.
no shade to
shoes.
New Balance.
Yeah.
If you want to send me free shoes, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Even if they're the white ones.
Yeah, but I had a guy in TSA in was it January? Yeah, January. I was with my brother. We're going through TSA in LA, and he complimented me on my calves.
On your calves.
And I'm
that's true.
standing with my brother, and he has his AirPods in, and he takes his AirPods out. He's like, "The fuck did he say to you?" I go, "Nothing, just nothing."
You got great calves.
And
That
it
might be
was the
some weird
weirdest
fetish.
thing ever. He was like, "What do you do?" I was like, "I'm not having this conversation with you. I'm just trying to get through this line. I'm standing with a man who looks just like me, who could definitely beat your ass. So can you just like stop talking to me?" I don't know. Calf things are. I don't care. I don't care about the physical. I really,
Okay, that's okay. That answers the question. Then it's just
Yeah.
about the vibe and the person.
The person.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But like Jason Mama's body, it's just 100.
Oh,
So
okay.
for Jason,
So-
Wall,
So it's him.
okay.
Then-
Then it's fine.
then it's fine.
Listen, he's probably the sexiest Aquaman I've ever seen.
He
but,
is.
Isn't he
My
the
husband
only
met
Aquaman
him.
you've seen? Has there been more than one Aquaman?
Oh, there might not have
The
been more
cartoons,
about-
just the cartoons.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That
They're
was the
usually all like
first.
blondes, I think, too.
Yeah, they were.
He cut the mold on that one, broke the mold on that one.
And tattoos. God, he's so good.
So hot.
All right. Anyways. So next question. What do we have?
Oh, feet.
Feet. Yeah, there's something about feet.
Oh, I think, is this a fetish?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
What role do feet play in mobility, and how can I move my feet to keep them healthy? So, as with anything, if you don't use them enough, muscles just atrophy, they go lax. And so, building strength could look as simple as walking, running, not wearing shoes and moving around your apartment barefoot, strengthening the feet. I think in this specific instance, a lot of the times they steer towards myofascial release, thinking, oh, if I keep kind of nailing into the grooves of this muscle, that eventually I'll have more mobility or flexibility or whatever the hell you want in the foot. But if somebody came to me and they said, my arches are collapsed and I need something to do about it, we would do things like sensory awareness. So maybe we would stand on a tennis ball, but then we would do things like picking things up with your feet, like utilizing your toes to physically pick up the resistance band or the towel, and then moving through dorsi and plantar flexion, and then adding load to that and moving through that movement in your body. So foot health, it just really depends on what you want to do, but if you're not using it, you're gonna lose it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's one of those things like, you know, a lot of times I think we overthink these things a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, what about my big toe mobility? And,
Yeah.
you know, which is a legit thing. And if you actually don't, if like your big toe joint itself is immobile, it can become a problem.
Totally.
Right? Very in certain circumstances. But at the same time, like,
You just cut it off.
yeah, I mean, basically.
Just get rid of it. You don't need it.
Good luck walking.
Fuck your back.
Yeah, seriously.
Anyways, yeah, so
Didn't mean to derail that.
off the tracks. But like a lot of times, like you're saying, like those things can definitely help in certain circumstances, but other times, like it can be as simple as like squatting,
Yeah.
like and getting into positions and doing things in a split stance position. Like that's one big thing one thing that I'm a big proponent of for like, you know, if someone lacks, you know, the proper, if they don't have enough mobility in the ankles, like okay, we're gonna do a single arm row, we're gonna do a split stance position, right? So then you're still loading that. Or if you have problems with like your calves and like issues with like, you know, those kind of things, okay, let's go there. And then like single leg deadlifts. Like single leg deadlifts are like huge for ankle stability, right? It all, I mean, obviously it starts from the feet. All movement starts from the feet. Technically, that's what connects us to the ground,
Force
right?
reaction.
But like just being in a single leg position can go a long ways for strengthening those things. And there's obviously certain circumstances, like you're saying, collapsed arches or, you know, whatever, if someone's broken an ankle, if someone has like rolled their ankles a million times in sports, like that can cause issues because things have changed structurally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But generally, you know, yeah. So
I often look too if somebody's saying something's going on with their, like, I have trouble standing on one foot. I'll look at the foot, we'll assess the foot, can you supinate, can you pronate, can you do all these things, but then I have to move up the chain. So do you have knee instability, and does that come from gluteal weakness?
Yeah.
Do you have quad dominance, and how is that affecting the front of your body and the back of your body? So I'm assessing the whole
it's
whole
a
chain.
system, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like if you're having pain in one area, chances are it's going to be coming from somewhere else, right down the chain.
What is the phrase Dave said? Like the
Joint
The assailant never cries out before he attacks. It's like what is the damn it?
I can't remember.
It's about it's the joint theory thing. But
it was a really good quote.
yeah,
And it was
so good.
Put it in the show notes.
I can't remember.
Okay.
Dave's probably gonna watch this and be like screaming
God,
at
these
us
guys
right
are
now.
idiots. I don't remember. I know I'd say it backwards, and I'd be
Yeah.
like, well, the guy
But
that's
the
attacking.
basic premise is that, you know, if there's an issue somewhere, it probably started somewhere else,
Yeah.
right? Because our body is a system, right? And we can kind of get into a brief overview of like the joint by joint theory kind of approach. And basically what this is for those who don't know, is like each joint in the body you want either to be stable or mobile, right? It's going to be more biased towards a big range of motion. It's going to be more mobile, like a shoulder joint, right? Or it's going to be more stable. You want a little more stability. You don't want a ton of mobility, like your lumbar spine. You don't want a ton of mobility in your lumbar spine. It needs to be stable, right? So if you use this approach, you realize that everything is kind of connected and it's all a system. And, you know, it may be presented in your foot, but like you're saying, it may be something with the knee, or maybe your hip isn't as mobile as it should be, right? Maybe it's too stable. Maybe it's, you know, your lower back, whatever it happens to be.
Is that Mike Boyle's theory too?
Yeah, I think he was the original, or he coined the phrase
Smart guy.
joint by joint theory. But yeah,
I love that nerdy
any
shit.
other thoughts?
No, do we have any more questions?
I just meant on that specific question, but
I don't think so. Sorry, I'm scrolling.
okay.
No, it's fine.
Differentiating flexibility and mobility. Did that.
Did that?
Yeah.
Nailed it. Wow.
Nailed it.
It's like
Why
a little
implementing
study.
strength is beneficial.
I think you talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about that many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anything else?
I mean, it's kind of, it's about the control, right? That's what that's the whole thing with the, yoga, I think I would flail for a little bit, or I just wouldn't be mobile enough. But I mean, I know I need to do it. And then the weights. It's all, and that's a big thing that I've learned is the core control over the core is just beneficial. Whether you're doing what pose is it where you put your Converse on your head?
Vrishikasana, scorpion pose.
Scorpion pose. I can say that.
Scorpion.
Or you're deadlifting, being able to stabilize the spine.
You're moving, right?
Yeah, it's a
you're
huge issue.
moving.
Yeah.
In general.
So no, and if people want to find you, what is your Instagram handle? I wouldn't give out your private email. Maybe let them
it's
earn that.
That's pretty creepy. No.
Yeah.
So my Instagram is etreaisphoto, and I have a website, ericatreisholm.com, TREAISHOLM, and I'm currently teaching Zoom classes because that is the state of the world. I'm doing in-person privates. I'm also doing Zoom privates and small groups and outdoor stuff. So
Okay, cool.
kind of doing all of the things with what we can right now.
Okay, and then I think we can probably put her stuff in the show
Yeah, we'll
notes
put
on
that
the
in the
YouTube.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
we'll put that.
out that.
We'll put that in there. Well, we appreciate everybody downloading this and listening to it. Thanks,
Yeah.
Mom. I appreciate it.
Thank you for downloading.
My
it
mom will
50 times in a
listen
row.
too.
you count towards the download. So
Clicking watch and download over and over again.
thank you so much for coming on with us, and we really appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
You got it.
That's it.
Bang bang.
Sweet.
Now you have to edit this?
Yep.